Hi, welcome back. This is going to be a quick tutorial on how to migrate materials and assets, for that matter, from one project into another project. So let's go ahead and get started. I have this project open right now that I want to transfer the material that I use for this landscape into another project. Now, the reason why you might want to do something like this is so that you can reuse materials that you've already created. But if you have an empty project, you can also stick assets and materials into that empty project, and then you can close it out. You can zip that folder, and you can put that up on the internet or in a folder, shared folder somewhere, and someone else who doesn't have access to your projects can then download that particular project and have access to those assets and materials that you wanted to share with them for their project. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and click over here. Let's see here. Let's hit F8 and get out of this. Get back into the player mode. F11 to shrink the screen down. And there we go. So what I want to do is I'm going to switch over to my desktop. There we go. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to take one of these materials down here that I've already created, and we're going to, like I said, migrate it over to a new project that I'm going to create. And that process is the same that you would do for any migration. And what's going to happen is I picked this material. I don't want to transfer the instance because the instance has already got some presets in it. So I'm going to create a new instance when I get it into my project. And then it's going to automatically, when it migrates, take all of the supporting assets that it needs to be able to create this material. So that means that these functions, these material functions for these objects, along with the supporting folders that go with these materials, will go with that migration. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to create a new project. So I'm going to open up my Epix launcher. And from here, I'm just going to go ahead and launch to create a new one. And I should probably stop this game over here. There we go. Let's go ahead and let's create this project. It's going to be an empty project. So I'm just going to go ahead, or actually this one I'll make like a functional project. So I'm going to go ahead and not do that. Open the project. I didn't want to open a project. I'm opening the exact same project I have open right now. So that's going to take a second. So let me go ahead and I was going to pause this. Yep. Okay, I'm back. So let's go ahead and try that again. This time without opening up the exact same project I'm already working in. Go ahead, select my Epix game launcher. So that just goes to show that I can't talk and work at the same time. And once that opens back up, okay. So we're going to create a project. So I'm going to go ahead and click Games, say Next. So we make this maybe a third person, whatever your project's going to be. Now, if you want to just create an empty project to be able to put assets and materials in that you're going to just ship off to somebody else, you don't need to do that. You don't need all this extra stuff that's going to make the file even bigger. So you could just choose blank, and that would work just fine. So, but for this, because I'm going to demo it, I'm just going to go ahead and click third person. I'm going to select Next, and we'll call this migration example. All right, so migration example. And if you enter, we go ahead and leave my starter content in it. That would be something else you could leave out of if it's just going to be for material transfers. And I'm going to create the project. And just about the time I decide to pause, it is probably going to open up. So we'll go ahead and wait another second here. All right, there we go. It is now open. And I'm going to go ahead and just create a real quick scene here. So I'm just go File, New Level, Default. I'll give it a name, real quick file. Save current as, and we'll just call this sample. Okay. Enter, give it a name, save it. Now real quick, I'm just going to go ahead and make this into a landscape so that you can see it with those materials after I get them in. I'm going to go ahead and import it from File, Edit My Layers, Enable Edit My Layers, select the folder, and in this case it is on my H drive. Let me go down to my height maps. I've got one in Colorado that'll work. Select my merged map, say open, fit to data, import. There we have it. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all these lines right now, so all the grid squares that are on this, let's go ahead and get rid of that. So I'm going to jump back in, select my world outliner, hit my light source, and make it movable right now so that all those lines go away. Alright, so now what we're going to do is, I'm going to save this real quick, move this over, and then right here I'm going to go ahead and take this master grass material. I'm going to right click on it, and right here after you right click on it you have this choice for asset actions, and what we want to do is we want to go right here, migrate. So this works for any asset that you can migrate. So I'm going to go ahead and select migrate. When it opens up, it gives you a whole bunch of choices. I showed you this before in the landscape tutorial, or in the gaming tutorial when we were moving our landscape over. And then once you've decided what it is you want to transfer, in this case I want all of this to transfer, I'm going to go ahead and say OK. Now what's going to happen is there's going to pop up right here a little starter content. Because I'm sending this T macro variation in from the starter content, it's going to ask me if I want to override that. I'm going to say OK. Because remember I went ahead and put starter content in that new project that we just opened up. So now I got to pick where I want to put it. And right now it's wanting to put it there, so let's go ahead and go up. Back into my Unreal Engine projects. And find my migration example, which is right here. And then you want to put it in your content folder. It needs to go in your content folder, okay? I'm going to go ahead and select that folder, and there it is. It's asking me if I want to overwrite. I'm going to say yes to all. Okay. And now it says it was completed successfully. So let's find out if it really was successful. I'm going to go in my content folder here, and there it is right there. There's that original, the top level folder for new landscape materials. And even though it doesn't look like it, these should have, the material functions should have transferred in. Okay, so if I double click on that, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And usually, if you just copy and paste a UAsset material from one folder to the next, these will be broken. It'll be missing all of its textures. You'll have to put those back in. But we can see here that this works just fine. I don't have any errors. Everything is where it's supposed to be. And it looks okay. So I'm going to go ahead and save that and close it. I don't need to save it because it didn't change anything. But when I open it up and hit save, it does help push the shaders along a little bit faster. But it should be okay. The other thing is, notice that these folders came in with it, so all of the textures are there, just like they're supposed to be. Now, my material, my master material, I'm going to right click, create a material instance. Okay, remember we want to create a material instance. I'm just going to leave it the same name with INST at the end. In order to put my material into my material instance onto my terrain, I'm going to select my terrain. Remember, we got to be out of this mode. We have to go back to the select mode. Select my terrain, and then this little green square over here, it says landscape materials. I'm going to click and drag and drop that there. And there it is. All of my materials, my texture is working, and all my landscape has the texture applied to it. And as we zoom in closer, we can start to see the details start to develop. As we get closer. So this is where we want to be able to make the adjustments to our instance. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And down here, all of my defaults for my instances are set. So for my tiling, so for my rock tiling, I've been setting that at 1. And it cleans that up nicely so all that tiling right there doesn't show up quite so bad. Now with the gravel, that's really because it's such a small amount along the edges, it doesn't look terrible at texturing until you get really, really close to it. This one I've been using either 2 or 3 depending on the terrain and how large you want your little rocks to be on the gravel. Even try 1. That looks pretty good. And then the grass tiling. The grass tiling isn't quite as obvious because we use those texture variations that are part of the starter content to help create this appearance of all these patches and different variations in the texture. It's on our rocks as well, but it's much more noticeable on the grass. And then as you get closer, you don't notice the tiling. So you can play around with that, but also that's going to adjust the scale of the materials, of the material itself, so the texture itself, the scale of the little grass that's in it may throw that off. So that's up to you. It's up to you how you want to set it up. But again, that's if you have a copy of this material I'm showing you. If you do not and you have your own, then that's fine as well. Anyway, so that's it for this tutorial. I guess I got a little bit into the weeds there. I apologize. And hope if you like my video here, please like it. If you want to know more, go ahead and visit my YouTube channel, Paul Fritz Animation, and like and subscribe. Hope to see you soon.